Good evening, everyone. Let's make a quick start. Thank you for waiting for us. The main topic today in the Eurogroup, of course, was Greece. So I'll concentrate on that. We reached a full staff level agreement. Well, actually, the institutions in Greece had already reached a full staff level agreement, and that was welcomed and agreed and adhered to by the Eurogroup today. So on the package of all these major reforms that Greece had committed to last summer, we have now a full agreement. A lot of legislative work already being done by the Greek government, and the institutions will do a final check on that to look at the last legislative work and to see whether that's all in agreement. Part of that, of course, is also the contingency mechanism to make sure that Greece stays on the fiscal path. On that basis and on the full implementation of all these prior actions and the completion of national procedures, the ESM will be able to endorse the supplemental MOU and then approve the disbursement of the second tranche of this program. The figure that we have outlined for that is 10.3 billion to be dispersed in several disbursements, but perhaps I'll leave it up to Klaus to outline how that works, both in substance and in procedure. So this is very good news. Already this part of the agreement of today is very good news because it shows that the program is fully back on track, that Greece has done a lot, delivering a lot, and we're making good progress there. Of course, this should lead to a full and positive conclusion of the first review, and as you remember, that on that basis we promised to look at debt and to discuss debt sustainability. And we did. We prepared that in a couple of Eurogroups behind us already, when we said we would discuss it, when we said we had agreed on the method to look at financing needs on an annual basis, to take as a standard the maximum of 15%, and in the future, once the debt has gone down, that can go to 20%. So on the methodology, we already had an agreement. We also agreed already in the previous Eurogroup to take it step by step. So we have designed and agreed today a number of measures that can be taken on in the short run. We have a number of measures ready for the medium term, if and when needed. And we have designed an additional mechanism for the long term. Let me give you a little more information on that. The short term is basically debt management. So we've asked the ESM management to look at measures which have to do with repayments profile, which have to do with reducing interest rate risks, and which also outline a waiver of the step-up interest rate margin related to the debt buyback tranche, which was in the second Greek program. So along those lines, we've asked the ESM management to see what is possible and to take decisions on that in the short run and take that on. It's difficult now, of course, Klaus will probably say a little more about that, what in economic terms the impact of that will be, but that is yet to be developed further by the ESM management. For the medium term, this is a second set of measures, will come into play on the full implementation of the program. So this is mid-18, the program runs until July 18 to be precise. And if all is implemented and the program has come to a successful end, we stand ready to do more along the following lines. to abolish the step-up interest rate margin to the debt buyback tranche of the second Greek program as of 2018 and the following years. It's the same measure that was also in the short-term package, but then it was only for 17, so we will continue that measure for the longer term. Second element here is the use of the S&P profits and the restoration. If you remember, this was also part of the second program where we agreed to return the S&P profits and the profits from ANFA holdings to Greece. When the program got into trouble in 2014, that stopped the transfer of these profits. Some is still in a segregated account at the ESM in Luxembourg. That's the 2014 tranche, so that will be made available. And as of budget year 2017, we will restart this. Restart this transfer of ANFA and S&P profits to Greece. Third element in the medium-term package, liability management, where we will consider early partial repayment of existing official loans to Greece, utilizing unused sources within the ESM program. To be a little more precise, if you remember at the start of this program last summer, we reserved 25 billion for the banks, recapitalization of banks. A lot less was needed, roughly 5. So there's 20 billion so far unused. A part of that we will set aside for possible future problems in banks, but a larger part of that could be made available and used to swap existing official loans to Greece in order to reduce the interest rate costs or extend maturities. Final element in the medium-term package is targeted EFSF reprofiling. That could be extension of weighted average maturities, reprofiling of EFSF amortization, as well as capping and deferral of interest payments. And here we will make sure that we don't incur any additional costs for former program countries or to the EFSF. Then finally, for the long term, we have agreed to put in place a mechanism which, if needed and activated by the Eurogroup, could provide additional debt measures to meet the gross financing needs benchmark if it were to be a problem in the future. Of course, as you know, the whole loan package has a very long maturity period, so we also need to consider the longer period ahead. All of this, of course, under the agreement that Greece complies with the requirements of our fiscal frameworks. Now, having said that, a key issue that will certainly interest you is whether the IMF is coming on board. And tonight, I'm very glad to be able to say that the IMF has expressed its intention to recommend to the fund's board to approve a financial arrangement before the end of the year. So the IMF will go to the board on the basis of this agreement to be part again of that program, a support program for Greece. Of course, this requires a number of steps still to be taken. I'll mention just two. One is that, of course, the IMF will, before it goes to the board, have a new DSA to assess where we are, taking into account all that is in this agreement. And the IMF will, of course, assess the possible debt relief measures that we agreed, that we, the Eurogroup members, agreed on tonight. So those are two key issues that the IMF will have to assess before taking that board decision. The possible debt relief, mainly talking about the medium-term package, will be delivered at the end of the program, so we're talking mid-18. The scope will be determined by the Eurogroup on the basis of a revised DSA, which will be designed in cooperation with the European institutions, also taking into account the European policy framework. This is an important point that was brought up by a number of ministers and also by Klaus Regling, that of course even after the program Greece will, as all Eurogroup members, remain under supervision for its fiscal policies, supervision by the Commission. So that's an important element also to take into consideration when we look at the future. So on that and on that basis, we look forward to not just the successful completion of the first review, but also of the intention of the IMF management to go to the board. I think it's an important moment in the long Greek program, an important moment for all of us. Since last summer, where we had a major crisis of confidence between us, that confidence has begun to recover. And I think that is what has helped us very much in this Eurogroup and the last two Eurogroups, starting to talk about where we are in the program, starting to talk about what is further needed to support Greece, also looking at its debt. Without that confidence, and I want to extend my thanks also to the Greek finance minister and his staff. They've been working very constructively, very seriously with us, with the institutions, to make the progress and to get us where we are now. And I think that is a new phase which I welcome very much. Commissioner.